the third commandment. So the third of the 10 commandments, and you can find the Exodus 20 verse 7 or Deuteronomy 5:11, that we shall not use the name of the Lord in vain. And people today, they always think, oh, if you say, oh my God, or you use God's name as a curse, that's using God's name in vain. That's part of it. But that's not all what it meant. Just for us today and for the culture of the past, for the Hebrews. People, like I talked about at the very beginning, people made oaths and vows. And people, they could swear by God and say, God will be my witness, or may God let it be, or something like that. But Leviticus 19:12, it gives us a clear picture that's not just using God's name as a curse word. Leviticus 19:12 says, you shall not swear by my name falsely, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord, and that was in ESV version. Because the word profane, people think bad words, but really the word profane means to make comment. And so when it says don't swear by my name falsely, it doesn't just mean throw my name out there, whether it's just say my name or whether it's making an oath or a vow to someone and holding it to God. If you're doing it falsely, you're just making the name common. It's not special, because we can apply people have the name God. You can, like, so you can apply this to an oath, you can apply this to a vow, but you can also apply this broadly to your lifestyle. You can claim the name of God. You can call upon the name of a God for salvation, for fulfillment in life. But if it doesn't match with what the Bible says, it's got no use. Because, I mean, El is the Hebrew word for God. Other gods have been called a god before. In fact, Hagar called God El, so she used the generic word for God, and that's in Genesis 16:3. But the other gods aren't called Elohim in the way that God is plural. So people in that time could have said Elohim, and they could have been talking about the gods. But even that is an example of using God's name in vain. Here's why. Because if you're taking a title or a designation, calling something else a deity, you're applying it to something that doesn't exist, applying it as something that it doesn't belong to. It is using the name in emptiness. It's not having the meaning it's supposed to be, and so it's empty. It's without a good meaning. You're referring to God, but you're coming up with your own idea, your own fantasy of who this God is, and people do that a lot these days. That's still using the name in vain. You can pray to whoever, you can pray to whatever you want and call it God, but if you are not keeping in mind the characteristics that the Bible presents through the name Yahweh, that He exists, through Elohim, that He is mighty, and that there are multiple entities in one, or El Shaddai, which is He's all powerful. Yahweh Sabaoth is God of hosts. If you don't keep those characteristics in mind and think about the God of the Bible, it's just going to be empty. If you're making up your own God, God's not going to answer your prayer. Now, God may not, even if you are praying to the real God, He may not answer your prayers directly all the time, right away, in the way you want it. But it's worse to pray to something, or pray to nothing, than to pray to something and not know why you're not getting an answer. But because Colossians 2:8 tells us we should be weary not to fall into shallow and deceptive human philosophy. Because people, they say, I'm going to make up my own God. I'm going to have whatever God I want. But if you don't pray to the God of the Bible, if you don't use the name of God correctly, it's going to be empty. And it's going to get you nowhere in life. It's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah. One more thing. When you talk, using the word God, who you're referring to? Interestingly, that goes all the way back into the most ancient forms of the English language. Think about God. God is the one that you make your prayers to. Mm-hmm. He's the one you can trust in. And therefore, you don't use that name unless you mean it.